with all this talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is currently the CW's DC slash Arrowverse mega event to kind of close out the mid-season for a lot of the shows, and which will be concluded in the second week of January. As an MLP fan, it got me thinking, with the inevitable Generation 5, up the road, in the near future, possibly next year or the year after, one has to ask themselves that the one question, or has to wonder, I should say, and I am doing this uncut and unscripted, but one has to wonder if perhaps, since it's been rumored that Gen 5 could be aimed at an older audience, with with the characters and its story elements and all that, it makes you think if perhaps Gen 5 might take that same step that the Arrowverse for DC Comics, DC Television, CW, and all that has taken with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Hear me out. Hear me out. You see, let's go back. Let's go back to the season 5 finale, the Cutie Remark. Now, what made that interesting was the fact that no matter how you viewed it, or how whether or not you enjoyed it or you didn't, especially the ending, the one thing that made it interesting was the concept of different outcomes depending on certain circumstances throughout time, like certain events changing, certain events occurring if, one certain mega event didn't happen, and that being the sonic rainbow, the double rainbow, if you will. Anyway, it was basically the scenario, the scenario itself when it played out was very interesting because you had different versions of Equestria appear. And of course, for fans, it got fan fiction stories and theories, really cooking in their heads and making them wonder, man, what if that was the true outcome? What if they explored this alternate Equestria even more so than they did, with its brief appearance in the two-parter, or what if they explored that one or this one? Like, people, I'm pretty sure, theorize and think and wonder, hey, what if they explored the Equestria with Nightmare Moon one, and she's the one that banished Celestia to the moon? Or what if they explored the Equestria that's ruled by, or that's at war with each other, like Celestia is at war with King Sombra, and Chrysalis is at war with Zekor's tribe, stuff like that. It makes you wonder. It makes people wonder, what would have happened if they would have explored that a lot more. Got into that alternate lore of that Questia even more. And the reason I bring this up is when you look at Crisis on Infinite Earths, and even some of the other crossovers they did, like one that people feel is better than this Crisis, and that's Crisis on Earth X, a lot of people have to wonder what would happen. What would happen if in Gen 5, when it inevitably does debut and does happen, that if Gen 5, like I said, which is aimed supposedly at an older audience, an older portion of the fan base, if it decides to go that same route, if it decides to do its own version of Crisis, or at least its own kind of similar story arc, where we get not just Gen 5 involved, of course, the Gen 5 versions of the main 7, the main 8, however you want to look at them, but we also get the other interpretations of the MLP universe or multiverse. Like, we get a visit, an inevitable crossover and appearance and help from Gen 4, Friendship is Magic. We get help from maybe or we see an appearance, maybe get help from the Equestria Girls world. We get help, maybe see an appearance from the upcoming Pony Life versions of the main 7, main 8. Heck, even go as far as possibly see an appearance by Gen 1. Even with an appearance by Megan, maybe. I mean, the possibilities, are endless. They really are. The possibilities are truly endless because when you think about it, every franchise that gets adapted with a new version of itself, whether people like to admit it or not, they end up becoming part of a multiverse in itself or on its own. A good example is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How many times have we seen through various adaptations them touch upon the fact that this version of the Turtles is from an alternate world? And it's all based on certain reasons. Like, for example, the CGI 2012 to 2019 series was based in an alternate world because April and Casey were teenagers. And April and Donatello fell in love with each other. Or so we are to think. Or in this current adaptation, Rise of the Ninja Turtles, you have a April O'Neil of African American descent, which I think is a great thing. Which I really do. I think it's a great thing. And by that reasoning, and the fact that Raphael's the leader of the group, and not Leonardo, those are clues that kind of... And the fact that the Shredder is a demon instead of someone behind a metal mask, it makes you realize that this, again, is another version of the Turtles in another alternate universe. So the reason I bring that up is I remember back when they did the Turtles Forever movie to tie in with the 25th anniversary of the franchise, as well as to serve as a finale to the 2003 to 2009 series, which was on 4Kids. Hold on. When that aired, it basically gave us pretty much confirmation that the 2003 Turtles we were watching, just like the 1987 to 1996 Turtles that we had, were all different versions of the Turtles from different alternate universes. And the reason I bring this up because what if My Little Pony Gen 5, which, as various rumors have pointed out, is supposed to be targeted at an older audience, what if they do something like that? Because think about this for one instance. Think about this for one instance. Like I said, you could have a crossover event, a crossover, a multi-part story, whatever, where you have Gen 5, the Gen 5 main 7, main 8, main 6, go across different alternate realities and meet up with different versions of themselves. Like they meet up inevitably with Gen 4, Friendship is Magic. They meet up with the Gen 4.5 in Pony Life. They meet up with the Gen 4.1 in Equestria Girls. And then inevitably, you have them meet up with, let's say, Generation 1, the first generation, from the 1980s. Heck, and even in between then, you have them meet up with you have an appearance, cameos by the Gen 2 version. You have cameos, appearances by the controversial, if not disdained, G3 versions. You get the idea. To me, I would actually, to be honest to God here, I would actually take the weekend off. Well, I do have the weekend off, but I would actually, if I was a fan that had to work the weekend, I would, if I didn't have them already, I would take every Saturday off just to watch, DVR, and then later on, or the next day, like I've done recently, record those episodes because I would want to have that to watch over and over again. And I would even check at various Facebook group pages to see if people have uploaded the episodes back to back. And I would even wait to see if somebody would piece all the episodes together as one movie so I could download it like that. Or I would wait until I've had it all recorded and they've all gone on to demand where I could actually do that as well. The point I'm getting at, guys, is with all this talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths and whether people like it or they don't, it makes me think that if Gen 5 is supposed to end up being aimed at that older audience, that older demographic of the fan base, that perhaps with that being the intention or the rumored intention, that maybe one of the stories they can end up doing is something that inevitably has to be done, and that's basically do a multiverse story arc where you have Gen 5 meet up with the previous generations before it, like Gen 4 and its various interpretations, like the Gen 4.5 of Pony Life, the Generation 4.1 of Equestria Girls, and then meet up with the other generations inevitably, and I know I'm using that word a lot, I do apologize, but inevitably meeting up with the Generation 1 ponies. I mean, think about it. You could have Earth Twilight of Gen 5 meeting up with her original unicorn self in Gen 1. Heck, you could have all versions of Twilight meeting up with each other. That's a moment people would like. And just imagine you could have Generation 5 and Generation 4 Applejack meet up with Generation 1 Applejack. Stuff like that. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, can you imagine if that was to happen and you had Generation 5, Generation 4, Rainbow Dash meet her Generation 3 counterpart? Imagine the interaction there. I'm just saying. But to me, I believe, honestly, that a story arc that is similar in ideas to what Crisis is doing and other stories have done in the past, I think is definitely something that Generation 5 of MLP could really tackle in the future. I mean, heck, you could finally even bring in, if you want to, the official comic book debut, not comic book, but the official animated debut of the comic book version of Friendship is Magic. Even though there might be identical similarities to characters, you could definitely show that even though they're very identical, point by point, personality to personality, that there are slight differences. But, again, it's just a theory. It's just a thought of a possibility of something that I believe could really benefit the series in the long run. I really do. So, but anyway, with that said, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think, with Generation 5 on the horizon, that we could probably get a crossover situation through alternate realities / multi-universes of MLP? Do you think we could get a story arc like that happening, especially if Gen 5 is supposed to be for an older audience and demographic? What do you guys think? What would you like to see happen if that was to occur? Like, what interactions, what parts of the past generations would you like to see come and be a part of that? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, and I will talk to y'all later. God bless. Take care.